Imagine standing at the edge of the world, where glaciers the size of entire cities carve through mountains, where bears outnumber people in certain regions, and where the sun disappears for months only to return and refuse to set. This is Alaska, America's last frontier, a land that reminds us that nature, not humanity, still holds dominion over much of our planet. Spanning over 665,000 square miles, Alaska is larger than Texas, California, and Montana combined, yet it holds fewer than 750,000 residents. This is a place where roads end abruptly at mountain passes, where entire communities can only be reached by plane or boat, and where winter temperatures plunge to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. But Alaska isn't just about extremes. It's about profound beauty, ancient cultures, and ecosystems so intricate they've taken millennia to perfect. From the emerald rainforests of the southeast to the barren tundra of the Arctic, from the volcanic Aleutian Islands stretching toward Asia to the towering peak of Denali, North America's highest mountain, Alaska offers a glimpse into what Earth looked like before we reshaped it to our will. Long before Alaska appeared on any European map, long before it was bought, sold, or named by foreign powers, this land belonged to itself. For more than 15,000 years, indigenous peoples carved out existence in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The Tlingit, Haida, Tsimshian, Athabaskan, Yupik, Inupiat, Aleut, and dozens of other nations didn't merely survive here. They thrived, developing sophisticated cultures perfectly adapted to ice, ocean, and tundra. These weren't primitive societies struggling against nature. They were masterful engineers of survival who understood that in Alaska, you don't conquer the land, you negotiate with it. The Tlingit built massive cedar longhouses and carved totem poles that told stories reaching back generations. The Inupiat developed umiaks, whaling boats made from walrus skin stretched over driftwood frames that could navigate the treacherous Arctic seas. The Aleut created baidakas, sleek kayaks so well designed that Russian explorers adopted them immediately. These cultures developed complex trading networks, rich oral traditions, and spiritual practices deeply intertwined with the rhythms of salmon runs, caribou migrations, and the eternal cycle of ice and thaw. Then came the Russians. In 1741, Vitus Bering's expedition sighted Alaska, and within decades, the Russian-American company established itself as a colonial power driven by one obsession: sea otter pelts. These luxurious furs, prized in Chinese markets, were worth more than gold. The Russians built Sitka as the capital of Russian America, an outpost of Orthodox churches and fortified settlements perched on the edge of the vast Tongass rainforest. But Russian control was always tenuous. Stretched thin across thousands of miles of coastline, they could never truly dominate. Indigenous resistance persisted. The Tlingit, particularly, refused to submit quietly, engaging in warfare and negotiation that kept Russian expansion limited. By the 1860s, Russia faced financial strain, military overextension, and the realization that this frozen territory was bleeding them dry. When U.S. Secretary of State William Seward negotiated the purchase of Alaska in 1867 for $7.2 million, about 2 cents per acre, critics mocked it as Seward's folly and Seward's icebox. They couldn't have been more wrong. Fly into Southeast Alaska, and you'll understand immediately why this region defies everything you thought you knew about the North. Below you stretches the Tongass National Forest, 7 million acres of temperate rainforest, the largest intact coastal temperate rainforest on Earth. This isn't the tundra of Alaska's Arctic. This is a world drowned in rain, where precipitation can exceed 200 inches annually, where moss hangs from centuries-old spruce and hemlock trees like green curtains, where the air itself feels alive with moisture. The Tongass functions as a biological engine of staggering complexity. Sitka spruce and western hemlock tower 200 feet high, some living for over 700 years. Beneath their canopy, an understory of devil's club, blueberry and ferns creates layers of habitat for everything from Sitka black-tailed deer to tiny forest voles. But the true magic of the Tongass lies in its connection between ocean and forest, mediated by one of nature's most spectacular events, the salmon run. Every year, millions of salmon return from the Pacific to spawn in the freshwater streams where they were born. They swim against impossible currents, leap up waterfalls, their bodies transforming from silver ocean predators to red, hook-jawed spawners driven by genetic imperative. And when they reach their spawning grounds, they reproduce and die, their bodies becoming fertilizer for the forest. Bears drag salmon carcasses deep into the woods. Eagles scavenge the remains. Nutrients from the ocean, nitrogen, phosphorus, minerals, are deposited miles inland, feeding the very trees that shade the streams, completing a cycle that has run for thousands of years. This is why the Tongass produces trees of such size. This is why Southeast Alaska's forests are among the most productive ecosystems on the planet. The salmon are the messengers between two worlds, carrying the wealth of the sea into the heart of the forest. Scientists have found that up to 80% of the nitrogen in riverside trees comes from salmon. Remove the salmon, and the forest begins to starve. Protect the salmon, and you protect everything. The Tongass also serves as one of the world's most powerful carbon sinks, storing approximately 8% of all carbon sequestered in the lower 48 states' national forests combined, despite comprising less than 8% of total national forest land. In an age of climate crisis, these ancient forests are doing the quiet work of stabilizing our atmosphere, absorbing carbon dioxide, and reminding us that nature's solutions are often more elegant than our own. From Sitka, travel eastward, and you enter the realm of ice. This is where the mountains meet the sea in the most dramatic fashion imaginable, through glaciers that flow down from vast ice fields, carving fjords thousands of feet deep, and carving icebergs into waters so blue they seem photoshopped. Tidewater glaciers, glaciers that terminate directly in the ocean, are among nature's most dynamic and awe-inspiring features. Stand on the deck of a boat in Glacier Bay or Tracy Arm Fjord, and you'll witness something primordial. The glacier looms ahead, a wall of ice perhaps 200 feet tall, ribboned with centuries of compressed snow. The air is cold, sharp, silent, except for the creak and groan of moving ice. Then, without warning, a section breaks free. Thousands of tons of ice crash into the sea with a roar that echoes off the mountains. Waves radiate outward. Seals scatter from ice floes. The water boils with displaced energy. This is carving, and it's not just a spectacle. It's a fundamental process shaping Alaska's coast. Glaciers are rivers of ice, flowing imperceptibly slowly down mountain valleys under their own immense weight. As they reach the sea, the ice becomes unstable, fractures, and collapses, creating icebergs that float away on tidal currents. Harbor seals use these icebergs as refuges from orcas, giving birth on the ice where predators can't reach. The fjords themselves, those deep, narrow inlets with steep walls, were carved by glaciers during past ice ages, when the ice extended much farther than it does today. But these glaciers are in retreat. Climate change has accelerated their melting dramatically. Since the mid-20th century, Alaska's glaciers have lost approximately 75 gigatons of ice per year, contributing measurably to global sea level rise. The Columbia Glacier, one of Alaska's largest, has retreated more than 12 miles since 1980. What we're witnessing isn't just the slow geological change of deep time. It's a transformation happening within a single human lifetime, a warning written in ice and water. Ketchikan appears through the mist like a hallucination, a town clinging improbably to steep terrain where no town should exist. With annual rainfall exceeding 150 inches, Ketchikan is one of the wettest cities in the United States. Rain isn't weather here, it's a permanent condition, a fact of existence that shapes architecture, economy, and psychology. Founded in the 1880s as a salmon cannery outpost, Ketchikan grew into a bustling port during Alaska's fishing boom. At its peak, the city processed more fish than any other in the world, earning the nickname Salmon Capital of the World. Today, Creek Street, once the red light district where brothels perched on stilts over Ketchikan Creek, has been transformed into a tourist attraction, but the fishing heritage remains real and vital. The waters surrounding Ketchikan still produce some of the world's finest salmon, halibut, and crab. What's remarkable about Ketchikan and Southeast Alaska's other coastal towns is their isolation. No roads connect them to the outside world. If you want to leave, you fly or you take a ferry. The Alaska Marine Highway System, a fleet of ferries that function as the region's highway system, is the lifeline connecting communities scattered across thousands of miles of coastline. This isolation creates a particular character, a self-reliance and closeness to nature that's rare in modern America. North of Ketchikan lies Juneau, Alaska's capital and perhaps its most unusual state capital in the nation. With a population around 32,000, Juneau is inaccessible by road, nestled between the Gastineau Channel and the towering mountains of the Coast Range. Behind the city, the Juneau icefield stretches for 1,500 square miles, feeding 38 major glaciers, including the famous Mendenhall Glacier. Juneau's story is one of gold. When Joe Juneau and Richard Harris discovered gold in 1880 in what would become the Alaska Juneau Mine, they sparked a rush that would define the city. The mine operated until 1944, producing millions in gold, but its legacy is the city itself, a capital built on boom and bust cycles, now sustained by government, tourism, and fishing. Above Juneau, scientists study the ice fields as climate indicators, measuring snowfall, melt rates, and glacier advance or retreat. These frozen laboratories provide crucial data on global warming, making Juneau both a refuge of natural beauty and a warning station for our changing planet. If Juneau represented Alaska's first major gold rush, Skagway was its crescendo, its moment of absolute madness. In 1897, news reached the outside world. Gold had been discovered in Canada's Klondike region. Within months, over 100,000 prospectors set out for the goldfields. The quickest route, through Skagway, up and over the brutal passes of the coast mountains. The Chilkoot Trail and White Pass became scenes of desperate ambition. Prospectors hauled literally tons of supplies. Canadian authorities required each person to bring a year's worth of provisions to prevent starvation, up near vertical slopes in multiple trips. Photographs from the era show endless lines of men ascending the Golden Stairs, 1,500 steps carved into the ice and snow of Chilkoot Pass. Avalanches killed dozens in a single day. Horses died by the hundreds on White Pass, so many that it became known as Dead Horse Trail. Utqiaġvik itself transformed overnight from a tent city to a boomtown controlled by con men and criminals. Soapy Smith, the town's most infamous resident, ran gambling halls and protection rackets until vigilantes shot him dead in 1898. Order came slowly, civilization more slowly still. What changed everything was engineering. In 1898, construction began on the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway, an impossible feat of engineering that carved a narrow-gauge railroad through terrain that had killed hundreds of men and animals. Completed in 1900, the railway transformed the brutal trail into a scenic journey, opening Alaska to a new kind of visitor, the tourist. Today, Utqiaġvik lives entirely on its past. The town is preserved as a national historical park, its wooden boardwalks and false front buildings maintained as museums to gold rush mania. The railway still runs, carrying tourists instead of miners, but the mountains remain as unforgiving as ever, a reminder that Alaska's beauty always comes with danger. Travel west and north from the coastal rainforests, and Alaska transforms dramatically. The trees thin, then disappear entirely. Welcome to the tundra, a landscape of low shrubs, lichens, and permafrost, permanently frozen ground that can extend hundreds of feet deep. Nome rises from the Seringian coastal plain like a frontier town from another century, which in many ways it still is. Founded during the 1899 Nome Gold Rush, when gold was discovered on the beach itself, Nome attracted 20,000 fortune seekers who literally sifted the sand for gold. The boom faded, but Nome endured, sustained by the Iditarod Trail sled dog race, which ends here each March after mushers, and their dogs have traveled over 1,000 miles from Anchorage. Fairbanks, 200 miles south in Alaska's interior, tells a similar story. Gold discovered along the Chena River in 1902 created the city, and the mining heritage persists. Modern operations still extract gold from the hills surrounding Fairbanks. But what defines Fairbanks now is temperature extremes. Summer days can reach 90 degrees F, while winter regularly plunges below degrees F. At those temperatures, exposed skin freezes in minutes. Car engines must be kept running or plugged into block heaters. The air itself seems to crystallize. Both Nome and Fairbanks feel temporary despite their century-plus histories. Buildings sit on pilings to prevent their heat from melting the permafrost and causing foundations to sink. Roads buckle and wave as the ground beneath them thaws and refreezes. Everything is engineered around the frozen earth, a constant negotiation with geology. If Alaska has a center of gravity, it's Anchorage, home to nearly 300,000 people, 40% of Alaska's entire population. Located on a coastal plain where the Utqiaġvik Mountains meet Cook Inlet, Anchorage exists because of geography. It's the most accessible point in southern Alaska, connected by rail to Seward and by road to the Richardson Highway and Alaska Highway networks. But Anchorage knows its foundations are fragile. On March 27, 1964, a magnitude 9.2 earthquake, the second most powerful ever recorded, devastated the city. The ground liquefied. Entire neighborhoods slid into the sea. Tsunamis followed. When it was over, 131 people were dead and Anchorage lay in ruins. The city rebuilt, implementing strict earthquake-resistant building codes, but the memory persists. Alaska sits on the Ring of Fire, where the Pacific Plate subducts beneath the North American Plate. The Earth here is restless. From Anchorage, roads radiate outward, the Seward Highway south, the Glen Highway north and east, the Parks Highway toward Denali, but they all end eventually. Wilderness reclaims everything beyond a certain point. This is Alaska's essential truth. Human settlement exists only by permission of the land, and that permission can be revoked at any moment. Prince William Sound, a vast sheltered waterway southeast of Anchorage, represents Alaska's paradox, stunning beauty shadowed by industrial catastrophe. Surrounded by the Utqiaġvik National Forest, the second largest national forest in the United States, the Sound's waters are fed by tidewater glaciers, creating a marine environment of extraordinary richness. Orcas hunt seals, humpback whales feed on herring, sea otters float among kelp forests. Then there's Valdez, the terminus of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline System. Since 1977, this 800-mile pipeline has carried crude oil from the North Slope oil fields across Alaska's breadth to Valdez, where tankers load it for transport to refineries. The pipeline represents Alaska's economic reality. Oil revenue funds state government, pays dividends to residents through the Alaska Permanent Fund, and underwrites services across this expensive, isolated state. But pipelines and tankers carry risks. On March 24, 1989, the Exxon Valdez struck a reef, spilling 11 million gallons of crude oil into Prince William Sound. The spill coated 1,300 miles of coastline, killed hundreds of thousands of seabirds, thousands of sea otters, and devastated communities dependent on fishing. Cleanup efforts continue to this day. The disaster revealed the fragility of Alaska's ecosystems and the consequences when industry fails. Valdez itself has a history of deception and disaster. Originally founded after the Klondike Gold Rush as an all-American route to the goldfields, avoiding Canadian territory, it was promoted with fraudulent claims of easy access. Early prospectors found impassable glaciers instead. Then, in the 1964 earthquake, the original town site was destroyed by submarine landslides and tsunamis, forcing complete relocation. Valdez persists, rebuilt on more stable ground, its economy now tied to oil rather than gold, but always aware that in Alaska, disaster is never far away. Kenai Fjords National Park exists as a reminder of what Alaska looked like during the last ice age. Nearly half the park is covered by the Harding Ice Field, a 700-square-mile expanse of ice up to a mile thick. From this ice field flow over 38 glaciers, including the dramatic Exit Glacier, one of the few glaciers accessible by road. What makes Exit Glacier educational is visible retreat. Markers along the trail show where the glacier's terminus was in 1815, 1900, 1950, and each subsequent decade. The distances are staggering. The glacier has retreated over a mile in the past century, with the pace accelerating dramatically in recent decades. You can literally watch climate change unfolding in real time, written in ice and rock. Northwest Denali National Park centers on its namesake mountain, Denali, the Great One in the Athabascan language. At 20,310 feet, Denali is North America's tallest peak, a massif so huge it creates its own weather systems. Clouds form around its summit. Temperatures can drop to -75 degrees F. Only half of climbers who attempt to summit succeed. Dozens have died trying. But Denali National Park isn't about the mountain alone. It's about wilderness on a scale difficult to comprehend. The park covers 6 million acres, larger than the state of New Hampshire, yet has only one road penetrating 92 miles into the interior. Beyond that road lies trackless tundra, river valleys, and mountain ranges, where grizzly bears, wolves, caribou, and Dall sheep live according to patterns older than human memory. These parks exist not as playgrounds, but as preserves, places where nature is allowed to function without human interference. They're laboratories for studying intact ecosystems, refuges for species requiring vast territories, and reminders that some places should remain beyond our control. Homer sits at the end of the Sterling Highway, perched on the edge of Kashimak Bay, with the Kenai Mountains rising across the water. Known as the halibut fishing capital of the world, Homer extends into the bay on the Homer Spit, a narrow gravel bar where fishing boats crowd the harbors and eagles perch on pilings. Palmer and the Matanuska Valley represent Alaska's agricultural experiment. During the Great Depression, the federal government relocated 200 farming families here, betting that Alaska's long summer days would compensate for its short growing season. They were partially right. Vegetables grow to enormous sizes under 20 hours of daily sunlight, creating giant cabbages weighing over 100 pounds. But farming here remains marginal, possible only in valleys where glaciers deposited fertile soil and where the growing season extends just long enough for crops to mature. Beyond these settlements, roads simply end. The highway reaches a trailhead, and then there's nothing but mountains, tundra, and silence. This isn't failure of infrastructure, it's acknowledgement of reality. Alaska has 33,000 miles of coastline, more than the rest of the United States combined, but less than 5,000 miles of paved roads. The vast majority of the state remains roadless, accessible only by plane, boat, or foot, if accessible at all. The Dalton Highway is less a road than an act of defiance, a 414-mile gravel track stretching from Fairbanks to Deadhorse on the Arctic Ocean. Built to service the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, it crosses the Brooks Range, traverses the Arctic tundra, and ends where land surrenders to frozen sea. Drive the Dalton and you'll understand isolation. Gas stations are separated by hundreds of miles. Towns are non-existent, just maintenance camps and pipeline facilities. Wildlife outnumbers humans. Grizzly bears wander the tundra. Caribou migrations cross the road in herds thousands strong. In winter, the road is a corridor of darkness. In summer, the midnight sun circles the horizon but never sets. At the road's end, metaphorically and literally, sits Utqiaġvik, formerly Barrow, the northernmost community in the United States. Located at 71 degrees N latitude, Utqiaġvik endures 65 consecutive days of darkness each winter and 82 days of continuous daylight each summer. Winter temperatures average minus 20 degrees F, but can plunge much lower. The ocean freezes solid. The tundra becomes a white desert. Yet people have lived here for over 1,500 years. The Inupiat developed a culture brilliantly adapted to Arctic conditions, hunting bowhead whales, seals, and caribou, building structures from driftwood and sod, and creating social systems that ensured survival through the darkest, coldest months. Today, Utqiaġvik blends traditional subsistence practices with modern infrastructure. Homes are built on pilings driven into permafrost. Utilidors carry water and sewage above ground to prevent freezing, and generators provide power because no power grid reaches this far north. Climate change is transforming Utqiaġvik rapidly. Permafrost is thawing, causing buildings to tilt and roads to buckle. Sea ice forms later and melts earlier, threatening traditional hunting practices. Coastal erosion accelerates as storm surges, but are shores no longer protected by ice. The community faces an existential question: how do you preserve a culture built around ice when the ice is disappearing? Southwest Alaska reveals who truly rules this land: the bears. Katmai National Park and Kodiak Island host some of the highest concentrations of brown bears on Earth. A single river during salmon season might have 50 or 60 bears fishing simultaneously, an apex predator congregation seen nowhere else. At Brooks Falls in Katmai, bears station themselves at the waterfall's edge, waiting for sockeye salmon to leap up. Some bears are skilled fishers, snatching salmon from the air with precise timing. Others are clumsy, missing repeatedly but succeeding through persistence. Bear cubs watch their mothers, learning techniques they'll use for the rest of their lives. The scene is both beautiful and brutal. Salmon are devoured alive, their bodies fueling the bears' mass gain before winter hibernation. This isn't tourism manufactured for entertainment. This is essential ecology. Bears can gain over 3 pounds per day during salmon runs. A single bear might consume 30 salmon daily. This protein and fat allows them to survive winter, to nurse cubs, to maintain dominance hierarchies. The Salmon, in turn, are fulfilling their evolutionary purpose, returning marine nutrients to freshwater ecosystems, feeding bears, eagles, ravens, and eventually, through their decomposing bodies, the forests themselves. Kodiak Island's bears are particularly massive, some males exceeding 1,500 pounds. They're genetically isolated from mainland bears, evolving slight differences over thousands of years. The island provides everything they need: salmon-rich streams, berries, carrion, and few threats. Humans are visitors here, observers required to maintain respectful distances, aware that in bear country, we are not the dominant species. The Aleutian Islands stretch like a broken necklace 1,200 miles westward from the Alaska Peninsula toward Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. This chain of over 300 volcanic islands marks the boundary between the Bering Sea and the Pacific Ocean, a place governed by storms, volcanoes, and survival. Unalaska and Dutch Harbor, located on Unalaska Island, about 800 miles southwest of Anchorage, form Alaska's most surprising economic powerhouse. Despite being among the most remote communities in North America, Dutch Harbor consistently ranks as one of the nation's top commercial fishing ports by volume and value. The Bering Sea's cold, nutrient-rich waters produce some of the world's finest seafood: king crab, snow crab, pollock, halibut, and cod. But fishing here is among the most dangerous professions on Earth. Storms in the Bering Sea are legendary. Willy wars, sudden violent winds can reach 140 mph, waves top 40 feet, and vessels ice up so quickly they become top-heavy and capsize. The TV show Deadliest Catch dramatized these dangers, but the reality is even harsher. Fishermen die every season, claimed by hypothermia, drowning, or vessels lost with all hands. The Aleut people have lived on these islands for over 9,000 years, developing a maritime culture of extraordinary sophistication. They hunted sea otters, seals, and whales from bayduckers, navigating some of Earth's most treacherous waters. Russian colonization devastated Aleut populations through violence, disease, and forced labor. World War II brought further trauma when Japanese forces invaded and occupied Attu and Kiska Islands, the only U.S. soil occupied by enemy forces during the war, and the U.S. government forcibly evacuated Aleuts to internment camps in southeast Alaska, where many died from poor conditions. Today, the Aleutians remain sparsely populated but economically vital, their ports serving as the gateway to some of the planet's richest fisheries. The islands themselves are harsh, treeless, lashed by wind and rain, yet starkly beautiful. Volcanoes rise directly from the sea, their slopes green with tundra grasses, their peaks occasionally glowing red when they erupt. As our journey through Alaska concludes, one truth becomes inescapable: Alaska cannot be owned. Empires tried. Russia claimed it, built churches and forts, extracted furs, then sold it. The United States bought it, flooded it with miners, engineers, and settlers, extracted gold, copper, and oil. Indigenous peoples have lived here for thousands of years, developing cultures in harmony with the land rather than in conquest of it. But the wilderness remains dominant. For every road built, 10,000 square miles of roadless land surrounds it. For every town established, a dozen ghost towns crumble back into tundra and forest. Glaciers retreat due to climate change, but they're still glaciers, massive rivers of ice flowing at speeds measured in feet per year, but moving with unstoppable force. Bears still rule the salmon streams. Eagles still crowd the cottonwoods. The land absorbs human history like snow absorbing footprints, visible for a moment, then gone. Alaska stands as a reminder that the planet still contains places beyond our control, places where nature dictates terms and humans adapt or perish. In an era when wilderness is increasingly scarce, when climate change threatens ecosystems globally, Alaska's vast intact landscapes provide hope. They demonstrate that recovery is possible, that ecosystems can function as they did for millennia if given protection and respect. If this journey through Alaska moved you, inspired you, or taught you something new, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss our next adventure. We're exploring the world's most incredible destinations together, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that wild, beautiful places still exist. Leave a comment sharing your Alaska dreams or memories. Until next time.